Hey everyone, how's it going? So today's video is actually pretty interesting because I really don't remember the last time that I've reacted to an artist for the very first time, in one of these videos. Because all these albums and all these songs that I'm reviewing and reacting to, these are artists I'm for the most part already kind of familiar with and stuff like that. Yeah, so it looks like the last video that I did for like an artist where like I never had listened to them before is Eric DOA, and that was like when I listened to a couple of his songs for the first time, and that was essentially the very first time I had ever heard an Eric DOA song or just heard, his music in general. And that was like 6 months ago, so it's been like forever since I've done one of these videos. So today's album that we're going to be checking out is a very highly requested one. It is called Slide by George Clanton. What's pretty crazy is that this project came out like in 2018. So it's pretty impressive that it was still like a project that was requested by you guys. Technically, this isn't the first time I've heard George Clanton, because he was featured on the Gene Dawson album Chaos Now, which he was featured on Black Michael Jackson, which is an amazing song. I do remember though from that my Chaos Now video, I do remember I kind of had a hard time picking up George Clanton's like sound and what kind of sound he goes for, I guess. I don't know if I just missed it, or I don't know if it was just like very like subtle, in the song. So even though technically I've heard him in a feature, I still don't really have like I guess a good understanding of what his music sounds like, And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Like I said, I really don't know anything about George Clanton, his music, his style, his past projects. I don't know anything. So as always, when I listen to artists for the first time, I'm sorry if I get something wrong or if I miss something. Or one thing I will say about this project though is I did notice that a lot of the songs, they're in the 5-minute range, 6-minute range. So I think within these songs there's going to be like a lot of substance, and just I guess he's just packing a lot into each song. With that being said, as I keep mentioning, I really don't know much else about George Clanton, so I'm excited to find out what his style's like in this new album. Not new album, but new album for me, titled Slide. This is George Clanton's 2018 album, titled Slide. Here we go. Okay, so it looks like this project is about 10 songs long. And with that being said, let's just go right into track 1, Living Loose. Here we go. Kind of sounds like a saxophone, but I don't think it is though. I want to pause it for a second just in case anything else happens, but I just gotta say, I don't know what instrument that was, but it's kind of cool how it kind of transitioned into like a build-up. I feel like someone's like, I don't know if it's like a build-up, but the whole like song completely changed. I think he started bringing in like his distorted vocals or something like that, or you can hear him doing something with his voice, if that's his voice. There's a lot of texture in this right now. I gotta talk about that for a little bit. I think that's what I was trying to explain, or I feel like maybe I just forgot to say it, but I feel like this project is gonna have a lot of texture to it. I already mentioned how sonically I think it's gonna sound, pretty impressive. But just already hearing this song, and there's obviously some vocals to it, but I think the main premise or the main objective, I guess, is just how good this production is and how good all these instruments sound together and how good they blend together, So yeah, this project is really just focusing on production, the texture, the layers of these instruments. That's not a bad thing, honestly. Okay. That synth, I can hear that synth in the background. It's picking up. If you won't hold me, I won't hold you back. Is that what he said? Because that's a good lyric. Okay, so that was track 1, Living Loose. And honestly, that was like the perfect song for me because as I mentioned with the Chaos Now album, I kind of had a hard time picking up like what his sound was like, what his style was like. And honestly, that was like the perfect song to kind of introduce me to, his music, I guess. Because really, like during the first half, I really just thought the whole song was going to be focusing on the production and the textures, as I keep mentioning. But then as you keep progressing into the song, you can hear those vocals, come out. And he actually has a pretty good voice. I was enjoying, some of those vocals. And it's pretty interesting too because, I was hearing some of these lyrics talking about like, I don't want to be abused or something about like, I think I said it earlier about like, if you don't want to hold me, I won't hold you. Something like that. But when you hear like the production and the instruments, it doesn't sound like bright and happy, but it doesn't necessarily sound like, dark or, sad or, something that would kind of, I guess, connect with the lyrics. I mentioned it earlier, but if the rest of the album kind of sounds like that, I'm going to be pretty happy with this project, honestly. So track 2 is titled Make It Forever, and it's actually the most streamed song on this album, according to Spotify. This is track 2, Make It Forever. Here we go. Whoa. Okay. Ugh. Okay. I'm pretty surprised actually, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really talk about it because I didn't really pause it, but when that drop came in, when the song first started, that the instrumental production, whatever, when that comes in, that sounded so good. Like that was like right up my alley, in terms of like sound. That was really good. And it's interesting because I keep talking about I Didn't Mean to Haunt You by Quadeca, obviously. And when I compare these albums, I'm not saying they're the same like theme wise or anything like that because obviously they're not. But obviously on I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, a lot of the songs, Quadeca's vocals, they're pretty quiet, compared to the production and all the instruments. Like the production's not drowning out his vocals; you can still hear him. But I noticed it's not. I guess the vocals are not. I guess towering over the production. Is he gonna bring it back, or just gonna kind of lead into like an outro? I don't know. Oh. You hear that guitar just, kind of giving you like a hint, like we're about to get crazy. You hear like the dun dun, bow, and then that drop just comes in. Oh man, I'm gonna be a very happy camper if there's a lot of moments like that where, just a big drop just comes out of nowhere. Like with this, like there doesn't even have to be like really any vocals. Just the production alone. Like I'm really impressed with it so far. Okay, so that was track 2, Make It Forever. And I definitely see why it's one of the more popular songs on this album in terms of, streaming numbers and stuff like that. Like when those drops come in, I think there's like 2 drops. When those drops come in with just that instrumental and production, like if you're a big fan of that kind of music, just like that atmospheric sound. I was watching like a Hive Mind video today. They're talking about, they were using like the word ethereal. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But I know the meaning, or I kind of know the definition. Like if you're a big fan of that kind of style, then that song in particular, like I know you probably really enjoyed that song. But I don't want to take that away from the vocals too, because the vocals, they actually sound pretty good. Like it's definitely like a unique style that you don't really hear that often. But I enjoy it. I think it blends really well with the production and the sound he's going for. I forgot to say this before I started listening to this album, but since this is my first time, listening to George Clanton, I'm really just gonna focus on the sound of this album. I'm not really gonna. Because honestly, I'm not going to catch any themes or, any hidden, messages or stuff like that. Because I'm not there. fan wise when it comes to George Clanton to where I'm gonna understand any of it. So like I'm sure I'll get there, and then I can start listening to this album more and more and getting into the meaning and the themes. But as of right now, I'm kind of just focused on the sound, because if I were to pay attention to the sound, the themes, hidden messages, just all of that all at once, I would just be so overwhelmed, and I don't want to take away from the most important part, which is probably the production. And okay, so that being said, we're gonna go right into track 3, which is titled "Tie Me Down." Here we go. So I know I said I'm not going to pay attention to the themes or the messages, but obviously I'm still listening to these lyrics. So I will say that from these lyrics, it sounds like a lot of these songs, may have to do with like a relationship or a past lover, or just, someone that he feels really close to or he cares about. Because obviously when you hear these lyrics, they're pretty emotional, and definitely have meaning to them. He's definitely talking about somebody. Ooh. You hear that bass just like plucking in the background? Okay, so that was track 3, "Tie Me Down." It was a good song, but however, I probably wasn't enjoying it as much as, "Living Loose" and "Make It Forever." Like, there's definitely some nice, instrumental qualities in this song, but I'm just not sure if it beats, the first 2 songs. That bridge at the end, or I don't even know if it's a bridge or a breakdown, whatever you want to call it, because it's completely different from the first half of the song. That was a pretty nice touch, Definitely not a bad song by itself. Alright, with that being said, track 4 is titled "Dumb." Here we go. Ooh, what instrument is that? Yeah. Woo. Whoa. That instrument, it came back again, but it had some reverb on it to where it was kind of echoey. That sounded really good. I don't know what instrument that is. I'm just gonna assume it's a synth, but that's probably one of my favorite moments so far this album. Just that instrument and how it sounds. That's really addicting to listen to. Oh my gosh, I can't get over that. I'm sorry. Yeah, this sound he's going for right now, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Ooh. See, it just sounds like this. Sounds like this is what, I had to pause the song before I went into the next one. What I was trying to say is, those sounds you were hearing towards the end of the song, moments like that, it's just some of my favorite parts of. I don't know what genre this is, or you know. But when it comes to songs or just albums that just have this kind of sound, that very texturized, so many layers, I always find that usually the artists who create this kind of music, whether it's George Clanton, Quadeca, sometimes Joji, like I just feel like they're so creative. So you're always gonna hear like really cool instruments like this, or just like the ones you just heard towards the end of that song, you know, "Dumb," and then the that one instrument I was going crazy for, you know, towards the beginning of the song. Um, when you have artists like these who are just so creative and can create songs like this, you're gonna hear instruments like that or just sounds like that. And yeah, so far that was kind of my, I guess, expectation going into this album, was to be really impressed by that. Because I was just looking at like the titles, you know, of his albums and just reading like the description on his Spotify profile, and that's kind of the feeling I got from his music, was just he just has like a very like creative mind, and you really can't have any expectations because you don't know what you're gonna hear, you know. Okay, so that was track 4, titled "Dumb," and I've already kind of spieled, if that's the word. I've kind of already given my thoughts on it, so there's really not much more to say. I really love the instruments in this one, and I think that's why it's going to be probably my favorite, or if not one of my favorites. But that was a really good song. All right, so it looks like track 5 is titled "Blast Off." Here we go. Wait a second. Did that just transition into the very next song? Hold on a second. I gotta go to the end of this. I gotta go to the end of "Dumb." Did that just transition? I think it did. Oh no! That's pretty incredible. Oh no. Oh no. This definitely has like an eerie feeling to it. Like very like a little bit darker. Some of these instruments. Alright, so that was track 5, "Blast Off." To me that kind of felt like an interlude because, you know, technically we are halfway through the album, and maybe the second half is going to have a different feeling, you know, compared to the first 4 tracks or 5 tracks, whatever you want to call it. But as you saw, the transition from "Dumb" to "Blast Off," that was... I mean, obviously, like I said, I don't know anything about, you know, George Clanton's music. I'm kind of getting an understanding, but for the most part, when it comes to like these transitions, if he's going to throw transitions, I can't even talk, into this album, I'm in for a lot of, like, I guess just like mind-blowing moments. I love transitions, like, that was like so smooth. And it's like the, you know, track 5, "Blast Off," it sounded similar to "Dumb," but not exactly the same, to where, you know, it sounds like it's its own song. And obviously there's no vocals, it's really just, you know, an instrumental the whole time. No, yeah, that transition was just seamless, it was so smooth. I think this is just one of those albums where the experience, your first time experience, I talked about this in the last in the last video, about, you know, "I Didn't Mean to Haunt You" by Quadeca. I think a lot of people really overlook your first experience, I guess, listening to an album. And I think this album really shows why you should care about that, and why, you know, that's pretty important. Because this, very impressive so far. I'm just loving these texturized sounds. Alright, so track 6 is titled "Slide," and it's actually the longest song on this album, 6 minutes and 29 seconds. With that being said, this is the title track, track 6, "Slide." Here we go. I'm gonna stay the way you want me, the way I want to. Okay. What I'm loving about this project also is that you kind of feel like an instrument. It goes away for a little bit, but you know it's coming back. That's how I felt about "Dumb." That's how I feel about this song right now. I don't know what instrument is going like doo doo doo, you know, like going back and forth, you know. That right there. Just how he said "here again forever" and that drop comes in. Ooh, is that a bass? I will say I'm enjoying how like simplistic this chorus is. If this is the hook or the chorus, because it's really just, as you hear, it's just him saying slide, and it's just all his production and instruments just surrounding that. Because I think before the chorus comes in, you know, the verses or whatever, you know, he's actually like singing, you know, these melodies, and it sounds like your traditional verse. Something had to happen, right? I think like 2 weeks ago, not 2 weeks ago, maybe like a month ago. This was a while ago. I think I was watching I'm Dante's live stream, and he was really talking about how even if you don't, I think he was listening to something that was like it was like, I forget what he was listening to, but it was something that had like a pretty unique style to it, and something that, you know, you may not hear all the time, and something that's kind of new. And I just remember him saying like, even if you don't like this kind of music, even if it's not like your cup of tea, like you still have to appreciate it. And that's exactly what I'm getting with this. Like I do like this album, but I'm saying for like the people who maybe it's not their style, or maybe they're just not really feeling it, you have to at least appreciate it, because there's, especially like in this song is a great example. So much work was done, or so much work was just put into this song. And it's not even because it's a 6 minute, you know, long song. It's just because of all these different elements going on. I mean, just think about how long, you know, I'm not a music engineer. I think I've already talked about that. But I do know that the mixing and mastering, that process, it's a very tedious process, and it's not easy at all, you know. So to create songs like this, it's great, and it's fun to be creative. But when you get to the mixing and mastering portion of it, I guarantee you it's not very fun. You know, it's a lot of hard work, probably some very frustrating, you know, moments. So that's why you have to appreciate stuff like this, because I feel like a lot of, you know, when you listen to like a lot of mainstream artists, they would never try to go for something like this. They would, you know, it'd be too much of a challenge for them, or maybe they just wouldn't want to put in the work, you know. I'm really like appreciating this so far. Okay, so that was track 6, Slide. Another song where I kind of like gave a lot of my thoughts, you know, while the song was playing. You know, I talk about how just addicting it is to listen to, and just another instrument or just another moment where I'm just loving these kind of sounds I'm hearing, you know. And then the other part of it was just how I basically just talked about how you have to appreciate a body of work like this. Like this is something that you don't hear too often. So all right, so we're kind of nearing the end of the album. We got about 4 songs left, so we're kind of getting, you know, close to the end. All right, so it looks like track 7 is titled Monster. Here we go. That reverb. So far, it's not a bad song, but compared to the other ones, I'm probably not enjoying it as much as the other ones. I just think when I look at the other ones and all the crazy instruments you hear, and just those moments that I talk about. So far, I'm not really hearing that as much in this song. Maybe that's why I'm not enjoying it as much. The vocals are nice, though. I will say that. The vocals are pretty good. Okay, so that was track 7, titled Monster. And as I mentioned in the middle of the song, like, there just wasn't too many, instruments that were coming in, compared to the other songs, where just, with the other songs, I was just amazed with how they sounded. And, I mean, you saw, I really don't have to explain it. The vocals were pretty good in this song, I will say that. But to me, that was kind of like the only highlight for me. The rest of the track was like, it was okay, With that being said, track 8 is titled You Lost Me There. Here we go. So far, I'm really enjoying like his melody right now. How it's going with that synth right now, and it just came to me. And I don't know why it took me so long to think of this, because I like Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things. At my old apartment, I had my poster up. I don't know why. I don't know if I'm just really lazy. I haven't hung up my Stranger Things poster. I think like a little bit of it tore off when like I was moving out of my old apartment into this one. So like I think I'm just trying to patch it up to where it looks decent again, because it kind of got torn up a little bit. But this synth in this song, I mean, obviously there's been synths throughout this whole project basically, but the synth in this song, and what you were hearing in the beginning, the dun 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 dun, that instantly, like, that sounds just like one of the songs you would hear in Stranger Things. It's pretty close to that. That background, those synths in the background. It's kind of sliding on this melody. Oh no. Okay, so that was track 8, You Lost Me There. And I gotta say, from a production standpoint, that was probably one of my favorite songs off this album. Like, I know this whole project basically is going for that atmospheric sound, that very spacey sound, but I think this song, You Lost Me There, I think this is one of the better songs when it's trying to go for that sound, because those synths in the background, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed the melodies, with his vocals, especially just how he would just come in and be like, you lost me there, where'd you go, I'm stuck. It sounded really nice over those synths, but the production was very, very good in this song. I mean, it's been good throughout this whole project, but I really noticed it in this one. Yeah, definitely You Lost Me There. It's definitely a top 5 track for me on this album. Gonna be one of my favorites. I really enjoyed that. Alright, we have 2 more tracks. Track 9 is titled Encore, and it's actually the shortest song on this project. It is 1 minute and 53 seconds long, so a pretty short song. This is track 9, Encore. Here we go. Okay, I see where it's going now. Now that it's coming together. The song's about to end, but basically, like, I don't know if that's a flute. Kind of sounds like a flute to me, but at first you're kind of just hearing that flute, you know, alone by itself. But at this point, when that like kind of beat came in, and now it's kind of coming together, it sounds pretty good, and it's very similar to Blast Off, I think, where you know it's really just production and you know an instrumental. It sounds like there's really no vocals. Alright, so that was track 9, Encore. And as I mentioned before the song started, it was a pretty short song, so that's why I went by pretty quick. But still, I mean, you know, I know I mentioned that at first the flute, you know, I didn't really know where it was going, because it was just really a flute by itself. But then once that beat came in and it kind of started coming together, I definitely saw what he was going for, and it sounds pretty good. I don't know if it'll be my favorite, just because like it's a very short song, and there's not a lot of substance to it, you know. But definitely when I, you know, go through this album again and start listening to it, I'm definitely not going to skip it, you know. Alright, so unfortunately, this is the last song on the album. We're down to the 10th and final track. This is the outro. It's titled Walk Slowly. Here we go. Did that transition again? Come on now. Am I tripping or what? Let's see. Okay, end of Encore. Here we go. Come on now, I mean, that's too good. This is a very catchy song. Like, I definitely want to point out how catchy like his melodies are in this song. What's also impressive about this album is that he's just not showcasing his production skills. Like, these melodies are definitely like pretty good as well. Because I'm gonna be honest, if you really just focus on the production, and just included like a little bit of vocals or just not very, you know, much vocals, it would still be a pretty good project just because the production's amazing. But when he's adding these catchy melodies and these vocals, that's really the icing on the cake, you know. Yeah, out of all the songs, this is the one I'm just bopping my head to the most. Like, it's very good. Okay, so that was track 10, Walk Slowly. And as you guys saw, I was just bopping my head throughout that whole track. Like, that's definitely a head bopper for sure. Like, I know I mentioned that the vocals are just really catchy, like the melodies he was singing, but especially towards the end, that just the production alone was also pretty catchy as well. As I talked about earlier, you know, I really just wanted to focus on the production, his vocals, just how these songs are sounding, you know. And I know I talk about how I feel like, really when it comes to the outros on, you know, albums, I feel like artists really try to make it different from the rest of the tracks or make it have more meaning. Since I haven't really been paying attention to the themes of this, you know, project or the messages, I really don't know like what the meaning behind choosing this song to end your project with. You know, I really don't know what's going on there. But either way, it's a great sounding track. And oh, I forgot the transition. I didn't even talk about the transition from the get-go. If you're gonna have a transition like that, it's already gonna be off to a very good start. You know, and that transition, similar, you know. With a Dumb to Blast Off, that was also a very smooth transition. Yeah, I definitely think Walk Slowly will definitely also make it into my top 5, or just one of my favorite songs. I actually really enjoyed that track. Okay, so that was Slide by George Clanton. So like I had a feeling that I was gonna like it, but I really didn't think I was gonna enjoy it that much because like I mentioned, I had never really heard his music before. I didn't really catch the feature in, you know, Black Michael Jackson by Gene Dawson. So it's like, you know, diving into 10, you know, songs that I have no idea what I'm about to hear. It was definitely an experience, yeah. I was a little bit nervous. I always get nervous when I, you know, make these videos for artists for the very first time. Like I've never heard of them. Like when I made the Eric DOA video, this video. I always get very nervous when I first listen to Pixel Bath by Gene Dawson. I always get nervous because I don't know what to expect, and I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not. So, but this was another one where even though I was nervous, I ended up liking the album. I ended up liking the artist. Honestly, I feel like I've already talked way too much about the production and how texturized these sounds are and how good these layered instruments are. So I feel like if I go into it again, you guys will come at my head. I'm just joking, but all I will say is that if you've never heard this album before, you just have to. You can't listen to it in the car. I feel like I've talked about this in my Quad Echo video, but you cannot just listen to it in the car. You can't listen to it with your family members around making a bunch of noise. You know, you got to really focus on this project. You got to go to your room. You got to put those earphones in. You just got to just block everything out for a good 40 minutes. That's how long this album was. And I guarantee you there will be at least one song where you're just like, holy crap. Like, because as I mentioned with the whole experience and how important that first experience is, this was definitely an album where when I think about the first experience, I'm gonna think about this album a lot and go back to this album. I think it's one of those projects where, you know, you hear people say like, man, I would kill to listen to this project for the first time, because it really makes a difference. The bottom line is, when it comes to George Clanton, he definitely has some of the most impressive skills I've heard when it comes to music. Like I really pay attention to that stuff. So when I was listening to this, I was really focusing on that, and the production, the instruments. One last time, the texturized sounds and the layered instruments, they were just all amazing. And when you combine that with transitions, the transitions were so good. And then, you know, there was definitely melodies in this album, like with his vocals, that were just so catchy. When you combine it with that, you're gonna get a pretty great album, I guess. That's all I gotta say, because I could probably talk about this for 20 more minutes, so I'm gonna cut myself off. So, as always, I really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning into the videos, liking the videos, interacting with the videos. I feel like every video that I upload, and I see your guys' comments and I'm interacting with you guys, I feel like I'm just building, I guess, like a stronger bond with you guys, and it just really feels like I have like a sense of community, you know, and I really appreciate that. With that being said, that's gonna do it for me today. I hope everyone's staying safe out there during the holidays. Take care.